Welcome to the news on NTAi International. I am Nolin Ebel Ame, and my sign language interpreter is Hannah Olayinka. Let's begin with the headlines. Subnational governments from Nigeria woo investors on the sidelines of President Tinubu's engagement in Brazil. 37 Nigerian young innovators to compete in Global Innovation Challenge 2025. Plus, Zelensky meets with Pope Leo XIV ahead of Ukraine Recovery Conference. And this is the news. Following President Bola Tinubu's engagements in Brazil, subnational governments from Nigeria have been wooing Brazilian investors for possible investment in their states. State House correspondent Musbao Danwahab reports from Rio de Janeiro that Ogun State government took the lead with an investment forum with potential investors in Brazil.
President Bola Tinubu and his Brazilian counterpart, Luiz Lula da Silva, on the sidelines of the 2025 BRICS Summit, continue to demonstrate shared interest for greater partnership. As more robust collaborations manifest between the two national governments, Ogun State government is taking an immediate step to leverage the platform of confidence being established by the Nigerian president.
The commitment demonstrated by both presidents was very palpable.
Governor Dapo Abiodun is on an investment drive in Rio. For a state that prides itself as the industrial capital of Nigeria, the state governor highlighted the investment opportunities in the gateway state, including mining, agriculture, livestock, hospitality, oil and gas, among others. He is also seeking partnership in power plant development, renewable energy, technical and vocational training for youths of the states.
We have a region in our state that's the deepest sea point in Nigeria called the Olokola region, where there's a planned Olokola natural gas project in the offing, OKLNG. This place has been identified as the right place to have a fertilizer plant. So we welcome partners from Brazil to set up with us a fertilizer plant in Ogun State to export back to Brazil.
There's a lot that already exists in terms of backbones for industry, which is why Ogun is also very industrialized. It's one of the most industrialized states in Nigeria.
Managers of the Nigerian economy also explained various reforms being carried out by the Tinubu's administration to remove the macroeconomic distortions and attract domestic and foreign investments.
We are on the right track in terms of growth, in terms of inflation, in terms of the external position.
In Nigeria today, you have stability in our financial system. We have a tight, very tight monetary system that ensures that inflation is gradually beginning to trend down. The significance is that the foundation for growth is being established.
They assured the potential investors of a friendly business climate and protection for investments in Nigeria. In Rio de Janeiro, Musbao Danwahab, NC News.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's status as a giant on the African continent is on display as investors are taking advantage of the nation's policies of ease of doing businesses. One of such investors is in Megama local government area of Niger State, building a Hydropolis free zone, a world-class modern city to accelerate industrial development in Niger State and Nigeria at large. A federal government delegation, including the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, visited the site. Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara was part of the entourage.
Niger State in north-central Nigeria accounts for the country's largest landmass, with abundant resources in food and power, potentials that are attracting investors and innovation from across the world. In the bank of Kanji Dam in Magama local government, this 3,000 hectares of land is playing host to the ongoing multi-trillion naira Hydropolis free zone project, with about 30 billion naira infrastructural project completed.
If 10 billion is not going to be available for you, I wonder who else it will be available for.
This is an example that at the time that some people are thinking that investors are leaving this country, investors are actually coming to Nigeria.
As a flagship project of mainstream energy, the project is deeply rooted and driven on public-private initiatives to promote various activities like manufacturing, real estate, tourism, and agriculture. Aquaculture Resources Limited is already leading the way with the full operations of this mega fish farm using a section of the Kanji Lake that is already providing thousands of tons of fresh fish to Nigerian markets.
This is an indication that on the land and in the water, Nigeria's agricultural revolution is on course.
The only way we can achieve, Mr. President's, objective and goal in terms of industrialization, in terms of accelerating it, is with the efforts, of the private investors and the private people. And what I've seen here is highly commendable, both in terms of the free trade zone and in terms of the aquaculture resources. We require, government intervention by way of its agencies like the BOI.
Since the coming of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, first he established the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, which has an 800-kilometer coastline and then inbound waterways that also support this kind of venture. If you match that with also the novel Ministry of Livestock Development, and you now know that the president feels that there is the need for Nigerians to actually have sufficiency in food production. That's the only way that our sovereignty can be guaranteed.
The investors are encouraged with the commitment of the federal government representatives.
Honestly, it's well assured, not only for us stakeholders, but for investors that are willing really to join us and to join this team for a very wonderful future, at least in terms of what we have on the ground.
Seeing is believing. So we brought them here all the way from Abuja. No matter how you try and show and sell this product, unless you bring people here to come and see for themselves, there's no way you can convince anybody to come and put money here.
Conceived in 2015, the project is a demonstration that with the right policies and synergy among the subnational governments and private investors, development potentials are limitless on Nigerian soil that is full of abundant natural and human resources. From Magama local government in Niger State, Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara, NTAi News.
In another development, Nigeria and Chinese Environment Ministry delegations have met in Abuja to finalize plans for Nigeria's green industrialization plan, with the Lekki low-carbon demonstration zone in Lagos set as a pilot. Charles Alpha reports that the meeting stems from a COP29 MOU between the two countries to establish the zone in Nigeria.
On November 15, 2024, in Baku, Azerbaijan, Nigeria and China put pen to paper in an attempt to address shared global crisis of climate change while driving economic development. And this culminated into the agreement to develop a low-carbon demonstration zone in Nigeria, which will be to drive just energy transition to support green industrialization. In realization of this, Nigeria and China set up technical teams to come up with a design that works for Nigeria. And so they are here to brief the Minister of Environment on progress and inspect the designated pilot site in Lagos to share ideas and exchange data. The team briefed NTAi after a closed-door meeting in Abuja.
Mr. President has eloquently articulated his program for green industrialization, and this is part of what the ministry is doing to support Mr. President's agenda for Nigeria. And so the study, which is part of why they're here, is really to scope on ground what is available, what are our policy initiatives, and what really is driving our ambitions as a country.
This initiative, the team believes, offers a unique opportunity to create a template and drive investment into infrastructure.
So it's a combination of a number of things, right? So it's all about green industrialization, right? Low carbon power, renewables, and a mixture of gas. Right? You also talk about green transportation, electric vehicles introduction.
This initiative aligns with that of the government of the People's Republic of China, including the Declaration of China-Africa Cooperation on Combating Climate Change. Charles Alpha, NTAi News.
37 Nigerian top young innovators are to compete in the Global Innovation Challenge 2025. They emerged as trailblazers from the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory in a national showcase of the Next Gen Innovation competition facilitated by the National Board for Technology Incubation in Abuja. Their projects are tailored along the federal government renewed hope agenda in food security, sustainable energy and community development, a program designed to expose Nigerian youth to new opportunities in global markets. It is also aimed at promoting local solutions to challenges in key sectors of the Nigerian economy.
From all 36 states and the FCT, from this incredible pool of talents, 74 finalists have been met.
Of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, whose renewed hope agenda charts a bold path from consumption to production, from dependence to innovation. This national showcase is not about contest, it's about your innovation. We are not giving any award. All we are trying to do for you is to expose you to those innovators, to investors that will invest in your innovation.
Given the China-Nigeria collaboration that is coming both in entrepreneurship and education, agriculture, AI, and all those stuffs, we are going to make sure that we support the innovation ministry, according to the Honorable Minister and the DG, and see that we bring the best from abroad onto our country and nation.
The NTAi initiative envisions an ecosystem of talents to propel Nigeria's prosperity through innovation. The European Union is seeking to strike a deal with the United States in the coming days to avoid sweeping tariffs, as U.S. President Donald Trump's levies were due to snap back into force on July 9, but he extended the deadline this week to August 1. Uche Ugochukwu reports.
The United States has moved its deadline for finalizing deals with partner countries to the 1st of August. However, they aim to reach a deal before then, potentially in the coming days. European Union trade spokesman Olaf Gill said the union has shown readiness to reach an agreement in principle, and that reaching a deal now depends on the willingness to find an outcome that is acceptable to both sides.
We aim to reach a deal before then, potentially even in the coming days. We have shown our readiness to reach an agreement in principle, and the Commission has consulted closely with our Member States and industry to ensure that there is a high degree of cohesion in our overall EU approach.
EU diplomats say the European Commission, in charge of trade policy for the 27-country bloc, could continue talks until August 1. The EU expects Trump to keep a 10% baseline tariff on EU goods, with exemptions for critical sectors like airplanes, spirits and cosmetics. The EU has prepared counter-tariff on US goods worth about 100 billion euros if negotiations do not lead to a deal. Uche Ugochukwu, NTAi News.
This is the news on NTAi International. It's time to take a break. More stories when we return. Please stay tuned.
I therefore call on my colleagues, or media professionals and editors, to be discerning in their reportage. We must deny these groups the undue publicity they crave. We must take them off the front pages and accurately report them as the criminals that they are, without glorifying their acts or giving credence to their false narratives. These, of course, are not freedom fighters. They are murderers, kidnappers, and destroyers, and they must be presented as such.
Thank you for staying with us on the news on NTAi International. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with Pope Leo XIV Wednesday on the eve of an international conference in Rome on rebuilding his country. A Vatican statement said they discussed the urgent need for a just and lasting peace. Zelensky thanked the Holy See for the efforts in helping Ukraine get back thousands of children allegedly abducted to Russia. Both sides raised again the possibility of the Vatican hosting peace talks between Moscow and Kyiv, an idea dismissed by Russia in May. Zelensky was due to meet Keith Kellogg, U.S. President Donald Trump's envoy for Ukraine and Russia, who is also attending the Ukraine Recovery Conference on Thursday and Friday in Rome. The meeting is aimed at mobilizing support, including private investment, for the reconstruction of Ukraine, even as Russia steps up its attack. The meeting between Zelensky and Pope Leo was their second private audience since the pontiff became the first American to lead the Catholic Church. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Namibia on the last stop of his week-long tour to attend a summit of the BRICS group of emerging economies, just as the trial of a former Minister of Justice of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Constant Mutamba, begins in Kinshasa. Details with Uche Ugochukwu.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Namibia and held talks with the Southern African nation's president, Netambo Nandi-Ndaitwah, on the last stop of a tour which has taken him to Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina and Brazil to attend a summit of the BRICS group of emerging economies. India's Prime Minister and Ghana's President John Mahama agreed on Wednesday to deepen security and mining ties during the first visit by an Indian leader in 3 decades. The resource-rich Ghana, seen as a beacon of democratic stability in Africa, is Modi's first stop in a tour that has taken him to 4 other African countries, the Caribbean and South America. The visit comes as the Asian nation competes with China and Russia for economic influence in Africa. India held the annually rotating presidency of the G20 in 2023 and used the group's summit to position India as a representative of countries outside traditional power blocs. Meanwhile, the former Minister of Justice of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Constant Mutamba, has appeared in court in Kinshasa, the country's capital, at the start of a trial where he is accused of embezzling public funds to the tune of nearly $20 million. Justice Mutamba resigned in a letter published on Wednesday. Mutamba, who as a minister called for corrupt officials to be punished with death penalty, stepped down after prosecutors asked Parliament on Monday to authorize a probe into allegations that he misappropriated funds for a $40 million prison in the northeastern city. The official, who is also a member of Parliament, denied the allegations, calling them a stab in the back in his resignation letter to President Felix Tshisekedi and the government. Mutamba, who occupied the post in May 2024, accused neighboring Rwanda of seeking to smear him. Uche Ugochukwu, NTAi News.
And from the Red Chamber, Senate has resolved to carry out a comprehensive investigation into the activities of fraudulent investment schemes, commonly known as Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, to protect citizens. In a motion jointly sponsored by Senator Abiru Adetokunbo and Senator Osita Izunaso, lawmakers expressed concern over increasing sophistication of operators of such fraudulent schemes and the devastating consequence of their actions on unsuspecting members of the public. Reference was made to the recent crypto bullion exchange, CBEX, MMM Nigeria in 2016, MBA Forex in 2020, among many others, which lured Nigerians with promise of outrageous returns but suddenly collapsed, resulting in investors losing trillions of naira. Lawmakers said now is the time for administrative reforms with regards to regulations and monitoring to protect Nigerians. The quest to find lasting solutions to malnutrition and food insecurity in Nigeria continued at the National Summit on Nutrition and Food Security convened by the House of Representatives Committee on Nutrition and Food Security. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nko reports that the conference is to build stronger synergy among stakeholders to tackle the issue frontally.
The core of food security is that every citizen should have access to nutritious, safe, and sufficient food always. This is the major focus of the National Summit on Nutrition and Food Security at the National Assembly. The heart of the summit lies in the stories of stunted children, people displaced by flood and left with nothing to eat, of farmers losing yields due to climate change, as observed by Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Nutrition and Food Security, Chike Okafo.
Let experts tell us what we should do, both at the national and subnationals, to address this challenge of malnutrition and lack of food.
Participants at this summit, drawn from federal, state, and development partners, were clear. Every Nigerian child deserves more than a hungry stomach. Enhanced governance priority on nutrition and increased awareness at the local level.
Transforming our food systems to make them more sustainable. The Nutrition 774 was bettered, showing that Nigeria has decided as a unit to tackle malnutrition.
It is hoped that these conversations won't end in the corridors of the National Assembly, but in fuller plates, healthier meals, and a nation that nourishes its own. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nko, NTAi News.
And talking politics now, the All Progressives Congress APC in Nasarawa State is engaging elected representatives under its platform to appraise performances in line with the party's ideology and manifestos. Aliu Tijani reports that the initiative is aimed at strengthening good governance.
2 years into the current dispensation, the All Progressives Congress APC in Nasarawa State is embarking on midterm review, keeping track on performance of its members who have the 4 years mandate of electorates with a view to appraise the journey so far. First to be engaged are chairmen of the 13 local government areas in the state as they present their scorecards. The novel initiative, the party says, is to ensure elected representatives connect with the electorate and also ensure campaign promises are fulfilled.
The executive chairman will all be there to support the party and to support the policy and program of His Excellency Engineer Abdullahi Alejismi.
While the local government chairmen declared their support to the leadership of the party in the state, the party is confident of sustaining its electoral fortunes to remain the most acceptable political party in the state.
You look at it as timely that anything or whatsoever is going to affect this party is going to affect your administration as executive chairman of local government, and that is why it took twice.
In Lafia, Aliu Tijani, NTAi News.
On security, the role of effective leadership, resilience and artificial intelligence in a changing global order is the focus of the training for military personnel in Abuja. The program, organized by the Nigerian Army Resource Center in collaboration with King's College London, is aimed at enhancing the capacity of senior military officers in combating emerging threats.
I want to challenge the senior army officers to start thinking outside the box. There are challenges out there. You see, when we talk about collaboration, you must bring something to the table. You must bring knowledge, you must bring the experience. So we want to sharpen the knowledge, we want to improve their experiences before they go out there and collaborate with others.
Well, AI belongs to what is referred to as emerging and disruptive technologies. Gradually it's becoming integrated into every process that we do, from our behaviors to our daily living. And as practitioners in the field, it's very important that senior military officers get acquainted with the rudiments of AI so that they can also enhance their processes in the field.
We have a new way of looking at things in terms of policy, in terms of concept, operations, and ultimately in terms of how we work together in the future.
Training is geared towards using artificial intelligence in upscaling the fight against terrorism and other crimes in the country. And next is a check on Thursday's weather prospects.